I'm going to talk about how to try and either stay healthy or get healthy, because you guys are in a job that has a lot at stake, right? Like, you are looking to raise funds for us to be able to provide the best care we can for our patients. And I've said this to donors, I've said this publicly, is those donations save lives. You guys can think of exact examples of where that donation towards research, donation to this new campus, it literally is going to save lives. And so I want y'all to know that this is the stakes that we're dealing with, this is what we're here for, and this is why I'm coming to talk to you guys, so that you guys have that tool set, the resilience to be able to handle what gets thrown at you in everyday life. And on a personal note, I gotta say, when I received my kind of like, I don't want to call it like a welcome package, Jennifer, you could tell me what, is that what you call it? Yeah.
Proposals, yeah.
About proposal. They found out so many interesting aspects of our family, and there was an article with my old man who's now passed back in Alberta that I've never seen before, and it totally caught me off guard. It totally drew so much emotions. I'm like, if you guys are able to do this, I know you guys are magical. So just, I want to say,
hold up your hand who worked on Quadro's proposal, who did the research, as I was smiling.
Well, let me tell you, it worked. Okay, it was special. So I will be putting you guys on the spot a couple times during this talk. Feel free to ask some questions. I'm going to save most of the questions for the end, but yeah, I think there'll be a couple gems that we'll be able to take away at a high level. So, from a preventative health perspective, from a burnout perspective, everything changed for me in March of 2020. We were in the beginning of the pandemic. We didn't know what we were walking into. We didn't know if we were going to be the next Italy. We didn't know if we were going to be the next New York. And it was scary. And there was a lot at stake, we felt. There was a lot that not only were our patients depending on us, but the community, the nation who was watching what's happening in ICUs. And this weighed heavily on us. And for the most part, we got through. We leaned on each other. We really leaned on our values, which was like compassion and being there for others. And we were able to get through some really trying times. But ultimately, there were times where it became more and more challenging. And I'll give a quick story. It was April 2021, and I'm with one of our respiratory therapists, and this is in the heights of I think it was alpha waves. So we're getting all these patients from Toronto. I'm sleeping in hospital now, like we're extra staff are on board. And I'm sitting there, we're standing in front of a patient's foot of the bed, and we're trying to decide whether to put them on a respirator or not, to go on a ventilator. And normally that's not a big deal, but at this stage of the pandemic, if the patient lands on a ventilator, they were going to be on the ventilator for at least 3 weeks. And remember, we're dealing with all these patients that are not from Ottawa, so they're away from their loved ones. It was just a really challenging time, and so there was a heavy decision. And so I'm standing next to our respiratory therapist, we'll call her Nancy, and she's one of our seasoned respiratory therapists. She's been around, she's stoic in nature only, and she starts crying as we're discussing this. And I was like, wow, Nancy, what's happening with you? And she was like, Quadro, like, this is just, it's a lot, it's heavy. Like, this is my 4th night in a row. I'm seeing these patients die alone. I'm seeing them away from their families. Like, this is so much. And this was about, knowing it was one of our stoic respiratory therapists, it was like this massive canary in the coal mine. We knew that if Nancy was struggling, a lot of us were struggling. And to be honest with you, this is when we saw a lot of healthcare providers leave the profession. And so that was to me the first sign that we need to do our best to kind of address burnout, have an approach to how we're going to deal with so many of our staff that have been struggling. The other component to this was our attempts to curb COVID. We had a lot of unintended consequences. We had people stuck at home, kids stuck at home. I don't know if any of you experienced, we called it the COVID-15 or the COVID-20, because you've been stuck at home, maybe having a pint or two and just not as active as you once were. And so there was that aspect of things where we saw a lot of unhealthy living really getting perpetuated. And the thing about COVID, and I rarely say this publicly, but I feel like this is a safe room, but in my, we'll say 3 or 4 years of taking care of COVID patients, I never once took care of a completely healthy person. It was all tied to either extreme age, or they had a compromised immune system, so immunocompromised, or it was tied to obesity or metabolic syndrome more specifically. So metabolic syndrome being pre-diabetic or diabetic, high blood pressure, obesity. And so this was a big aha moment for me as well, where I normally take care of the sickest of the sick. I'm used to that, and my area of research has always been on ways that you could save healthcare dollars and improve care. And then all of a sudden I'm thinking to myself, hey, if we get the population healthier, or if we focus on that preventative side, holy shit, everything changes. Like, instead of having people land in ICU where there's a ton of post-traumatic stress, anxiety, depression, ton of disability and lack of like returning to function. And then the impact it's having on families too. Like, if you have a loved one that's in ICU, you're not working. Like, you're at their bedside scared to death. And so this to me was like a huge pivotal moment. It's like, we need to really talk about how to get the population healthier. And I'll give you a cost example, or maybe I'll put you guys on the spot. So the average, according to Kai, what do you guys think the average cost of one COVID ICU admission would be, like at a system level? So your loved one lands in ICU, would say on average they would be there for anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks, we'll say. What do you think that costs the system? Any guesses?
$5,000 a day.
5,000 a day?
200K.
200K? Man, you guys are, again, it makes it less exciting when you So it's about 50,000, between 50 and 55,000 for one admission. And if you think about what we could be used, like if we could prevent one of those admissions and leverage that money for preventative health, and also all the costs that we're not thinking about like your loved ones having to take time off work, like it'd be so much benefits if we could leverage that prevention. And then one thing I'll say is, at a personal level, I've never really thought about burnout until I started to see it amongst my staff. But at a personal level, this was not something that in my era of medicine that you talked about. You do your 30 hours in-house call, you deal with the hours, you deal with having to do presentations when you're gassed. Like, that was the culture. But this time, things were different. You know, we as a family, we were very adamant. It was the topic of our first book, Unapologetic Leadership, was we saw a lot of injustice happening. We felt like there was a time for us to voice our concerns. As an example, when we started to shut down everything, we weren't doing cancer screening, we weren't doing elective surgeries, and there was clearly going to be some negative outcomes from that. We weren't doing anything to mitigate that. We saw our kids struggling, and we were doing nothing to mitigate that. So me and my wife had that conversation at the kitchen table saying, are we going to advocate? Are we going to be a voice when people are struggling? And we did that, but it came at a cost. Like, we had threats to our family, had threats to our job, and it was hard. And then soon after that, I became department head, and that carried a bunch of weight too. And all this to say that a mix of doing the advocacy, being department head in an Omicron wave when all our staff were swabbing positive, it just got to be a lot. And I started, as a result, gaining a little bit of weight. I started to not sleep as well as I could be. I was not going to the gym because I was done. And so this is the two aspects of really why we're thinking about how do we get healthier, how do we reduce burnout. And at the time, like, this is a nice methodology we put together, but it was something that we didn't have this concise way of approaching it until we had further reflection. But when you think about ways to restore health and to restore and reduce burnout, 5 things really came to mind. So one, and we'll talk about each one of these. One is knowing your purpose. What's your why? R, we have for resilience, so how you manage your stress. E for your nutrition. S for strength and exercise, and the last S for social connection. And once again, we'll talk about each one of these things. So, as I was telling you, during that 6 months into the department head role and all the attacks online, it really got to me. And luckily, I was doing this interview with Jody Wilding. She's an executive coach. And the topic that came up was called self-leadership. And I'm like, what is self-leadership? And what it is in your job, in your life, is really reconnecting with your why. So for me, at a personal level, when there was all this chaos, I asked myself, why did I become an intensivist? Why did I become a doctor? And ultimately it was because I love connecting with families. I love being able to be there for them and communicate effectively in a time where the world is falling apart. And so this is what I did on a regular basis, reconnected with my why. Instead of getting caught up with all the chaos, I would spend more time with the patients and say, really, what is your fears? What is your concern at the time? And spend that time with the patient. And so one of the strongest antidotes for you guys is, what is that why? Why did you join the foundation? Why do you hustle the way you guys do? Why do you put in the extra hours? And in those moments when you're feeling gassed, when you're feeling that you have not enough in the tank, just trying to exercise that on a daily basis. So one of the first questions I'm asking the group, either I'm going to pick on somebody or they could volunteer, is what is that why for you when it comes to working here? Here being the Ottawa Hospital, but not really. We're in the ministry. But what is that why? I'm looking at Heather. She's the alternate. So what's the Heather why?
Why am I here?
Yeah.
Yeah, why am I here? I love it here. I feel so grateful and so privileged to be in this organization, particularly at this time, to work on this campaign, to have this kind of impact on healthcare. Why wouldn't I be here? Where else would we be? It is Tim said this at the beginning, it is a real privileged opportunity. So we do it for my family, a strong connected cause, like many of us do, and I'm grateful.
Wow, pop on that. Anybody else willing to share?
So when I was in high school, I was sitting in the library and I was reading an article for a project, and the article was about Romanian orphanages. And it was talking about how they didn't have enough nurse hands to really hold the babies. They were overwhelmed. And so the nurses would just prop up bottles, and the babies would lie there all day, and no one would ever touch them, no one would ever hold them. And they were seeing years later high levels of developmental disabilities because of it. You know, that human touch was so important. And I remember sitting there and having this life-changing moment thinking, how easy would it be for someone like me with 2 hands, fortunate enough to have 2 hands and 2 feet, to hold a baby? All it would take is one of me to hold one baby and make a life-changing difference. That baby could grow up not developmentally disabled. And it was at that moment that I decided for whatever my career, I was 17 at the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that whatever I did for 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, needed to make a difference. And I've always worked in nonprofit as a result, and sometimes you feel like you're making more of a difference than other days, but at the end of the day, I think I'm here because what we do does matter and you can see it. And not every day is glamorous, but at the end of the day, I know that I'm spending my day doing something that could help somebody.
Amazing. Wow, this is beautiful hearing these stories, and just as a reminder, when you're not aligned, when you don't have that why, it's harder to show up as your best self at work. It's hard to take care of yourself too. Like when you are trying to make that decision of eating that healthy option, or getting to the gym, or reaching out from a social connection perspective, if you're not connected with the why, it often can be that much more challenging. So just thanks for sharing the stories, and then just keeping that front of mind is so important. All right, so now I'm going to get into a little bit of in the weeds in terms of how we could address some of these things. So one of the high level themes that I always like to talk about when it comes to these tips that you're going to hear is I'm all about the 80-20 principle. You guys know what the 80-20 principle is? So if you are, for example, a business owner, or actually donations, if we look at our donations, okay? If we look at 80% of the donations, the revenue from the donations that we get, usually will come from about 20% of the people we approach. So the whole premise is like focus on that 20%, because that's the group that's going to pay off in dividends. And the amazing thing about Pareto's principles, it applies to everything. Like even if you look at Ottawa traffic, 20% of the area represents 80% of the traffic. 20% of your activities represent 80% of your happiness. So always trying to find that Pareto's principle, that 80-20 principle in all that you do. And one of the principles for me in terms of stress management is sleep, okay? This is probably the most important thing, and I'm gonna look at myself, this is my kryptonite. Actually, show of hands, who here gets that classic 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep, we'll say 5 out of 7 days of the week? Holy shit. I'm gonna take up your job now. Anybody want to take over an intensive care unit? I am. Anytime I do this talk, that's the most days for 7.5 hours I've ever seen. So good for you. You guys don't need me here. Okay. So most of us that struggle to get that 7.5 hours of sleep, I always say one of the more important parts is not your sleep duration, but your sleep quality. Okay. And so what do I mean by sleep quality? What percentage of your sleep is getting that REM deep sleep, stage 4 sleep, so it's the restorative sleep, okay? And so I'm going to give some tips to improve your quality of sleep, not necessarily your duration, but your quality of sleep. Okay, first thing, it starts in the morning. So getting outside and getting sunlight on your eyes first thing in the morning is so important because it's going to reset your circadian rhythm. And what that does essentially is that when that light hits, your brain is now saying in about 12 hours, I'm going to start sending off signals to you that it's time to slow down. It's time for that cortisol to wind down and your melatonin to ramp up. So getting that sunlight first thing. Staying moving during the day. So getting your step count up. It was a study done on some military folks in the US with military folks that were already walking quite a bit, but they increased their step count by 25%. and almost unanimously, their sleep pressure increased. So what that is that ability to fall asleep. Who here has done a European vacation maybe in the last little bit? At the end of the day, how do you feel? Like when you hit the side, do you even remember falling asleep? Like you're gassed, right? Look at your watch and see how many steps you're doing in that day. I think this is the one that, especially in winter months, it becomes more challenging, but to stay moving, park a little bit further than you need to, use a bathroom, a floor above or below. There's little things that you could do to tweak that. I mean, Tim's not gonna like this, but I always like, turning off my screen and walking during those Zoom meetings or the Teams meetings. I'm a screwed up.
I've always wondered where you were during
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. Board meetings I'm good, but senior management I might be at that. Sorry. Is this being recorded? But yeah, adding that to the day can increasing your step count can significantly impact many aspects of life that we'll talk about, but this is a big one.
You could be like, Mel, how many kilometers do you walk a day on your stepper in front of your screen?
Oh, you got a walking treadmill?
Yeah, I don't even turn my camera off during the meeting.
You just walk.
Oh, good for you. Yes, like I'm a big fan of the standing desk, but I haven't tried the treadmill yet.
It's just a treadmill without the arm part. It's just a walking.
Yeah, no, it's
But I have
brilliant.
short legs, so I can run even though.
Yeah, I mean, once again, you could be up here. I like that. So yeah, increasing your step count is so important. I forget who we just talked to, maybe Heather. Was it? No, was it Shelly? Yeah, Shelly brought this up, I think. When you have your last meal, like to try not to have your meal too close to bedtime. I think what happens personally is that your body temperature rises. You're spending all that energy trying to digest the food. It's harder to get settled. You want that body temperature to come down. So eating too close to bedtime could also impact things. Same with exercise. I'm a big fan of squeezing it in when you can, but doing it near bedtime could definitely impact your sleep. Any hockey players in the building? Yes. After a hockey game at night, how easy is it to fall asleep?
Yeah, sometimes we have 11 o'clock games and you're just wired till like 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's hard to bring yourself back down.
100%. And so trying to avoid that exercise before bedtime is paramount. The next tip you're not going to love, screens. Everyone,
You're going to talk about alcohol.
it's coming. But honestly, TV in the room is a no-no. I hate to say it, but your screens. So what's the problem with having your phone and watching your phone up to bedtime? Is that your phone emits what we call blue light, and that blue light directly suppresses your melatonin. So melatonin, the hormone that tells you it's time to fall asleep, is directly being impaired by your phone and your TV technically, right? So avoiding screens, I would say 30 minutes to an hour before you fall asleep. And if you wake up at 4 in the morning, this is the last thing you're gonna want to look at. I'm sorry, even though you all do it. You'll be like, oh, what's the score of the Jays game that I fell asleep to? You're not doing yourself any favors. So avoiding the screens, but if you are, because I like to be in the lens of realism, if you are using screens late at night, one of the best things you could do is purchase some $15 blue blocking glasses on Amazon. You can get the fashionable too. I like my retro ones, and that will reduce the amount of blue light that hits your light, and from an evidence perspective, can improve your sleep quality. Okay? Last couple, alcohol before bed. So the way alcohol or almost every medication aside from melatonin, every medication, including alcohol that makes you feel sedate for sleep or a sleep aid, will make you feel sleepier, but in fact, most of them will reduce your deep sleep. Alcohol for sure will reduce your deep sleep. And so having alcohol close to bedtime, and this is something like there's a lot of youngins in the audience, but as you get older, you have something, I don't know if you people would volunteer this, but you have some sauce before bed, like it is impacting your sleep. Like I don't care who you are. Once you get past, I don't know, 40, 35, I don't know what the magic age is, but I can't have anything hard past 6 personally. Okay, so we talked about sleep aids, we talked about alcohol. So the last couple things would be, first, improving sleep quality, keeping the room as cool as tolerated. If you're sleeping with a partner, usually there's a mix. I run hot, so I try to keep it cold. Wifey does not like it, so I get a lot of elbows. But finding that healthy spot, keeping the room as dark as possible, so if there's a dispute there, you can always use eye covers. Earplugs has shown to also improve sleep quality, but I personally I don't like the feeling in my ear. And then once again, from a supplementation perspective, melatonin, you're going to see it's safe and effective, but it's the best evidence for it is when you're traveling, so for a jet lag and adjusting to a time zone. And this is me editorializing, it's not based on any study that you'll read about. I just get a little bit anxious about chronic use because it's a hormone. Like you'd be suppressing your own level of melatonin, so I don't love it for the idea of using it indefinitely, but it's not backed by a paper. And then the last thing about melatonin is you don't know, it's been well established, is you don't know how much you're getting in the tablets. Like it might advertise as 3 milligrams, 1 milligram, which on paper is a ton. But when they've looked at what's actually in the pills, it varies from much more to much less. Okay, that's sleep. Any questions about sleep? Yes.
What are your thoughts on magnesium?
Oh, I can't believe I forgot to say it. Magnesium, fantastic. So magnesium glycinate, or threonate, but like threonate is like the Huberman on fancy kind of thing. But glycinate is the one you'll find on Amazon or any health food place or shoppers. You do not want oxide or citrate because they'll make you poop unless you want to poop. Yeah, magnesium shown to improve reduce your stress. I take that one nightly. Reduce your stress, and some mixed evidence that it's actually improving your sleep, but there's almost no downside, so I take it. Yes.
You mentioned getting outside, seeing the sunlight in the morning. I'm a morning dog walk person. What do you recommend for right now through the next few months when it's dark out?
Yes, there is not, the short answer is there's not an easy fix for this. Daylight savings is coming on Sunday, so that's going to help for a while. The best thing you could do to me is that if you've got time in the morning, between meetings or whatever, get outside, just get that fresh air. It's good for multiple reasons aside from sleep, also just I think mental health wise it's good. But yeah, just dip out when you can.
So aids like C12 and PM, they negatively affect your sleep?
Yeah, so the question was, a lot of those over-the-counter sleep aids, you will, once again, it's pretty well established, you will fall asleep, but it's going to impact your quality of sleep. So a lot of people, it's better than nothing because they can't fall asleep, and I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but it also depends on what your sleep problem is. Like some people have problem falling asleep, some people have problem staying asleep, some people have the 4 a.m. wake up and they can't fall asleep. So those sleep aids are best for just initiating sleep, but are you going to feel super restored compared to if you were to have a normal sleep cycle? Not as well, unfortunately. Let's see a hand up. Okay.
Kind of piggyback on that one. So my kid at ADHD meds, so almost every night it's Scrabble just to fall asleep in the morning. It is a disaster. So what can we replace Scrabble with?
I'm giving you a non-medical, talk to your family doctor, pediatrician. Melatonin is probably what you want, and magnesium. Yeah. No, I get that, I have 3 boys, so you know, it's,
Is that in replace of the gravel? Or?
the gravel should go. Yeah, yeah, they should. Yes,
I have one more, and this might be a discussion for a different day, but for women of a certain age who have gone through a certain change, there's no solid sleep, like there just isn't. So how do we try to maximize what sleep we can get?
it's a very good question. So ironically, last week we did an event on menopause, so it's like, so this is fresh. So number 1, avoiding alcohol. Number 2, the supplements that I would try would be magnesium. Number 3, like talk to your healthcare provider about HRT. Progesterone would be the number one to take for sleep that could improve sleep quality, and so those are the ones that came up. But there are solutions out there. Yeah. Okay. So the last couple things that I'm going to say about stress management, gratitude journaling. This has been shown to be very effective in terms of managing stress and actually just having them improving mood. So whether you write those gratitudes first thing in the morning or at night or midday, to me it doesn't matter. I'm an end of the day kind of guy. The only suggestion I'm going to give for you guys is make it specific. Don't give this shit like, oh, I'm grateful I have a job. No, it's like, I got to hear Heather's why today and it really inspired me and I'm feeling good. I heard like something more specific so it actually carries a bit of weight and it's just not cliche. And then the last thing I will say for stress management, breathing exercises. So you'll see all this crap on mindful meditation. It works. But if you're like me, you just don't feel like you have time for it. So there's a breathing technique. There's multiple, but the one I find the most efficient is called a physiologic sigh. And when it's evaluated, it's just as good as mindful meditation. So it's a deep breath in. At the top of your breath, you take a slow sniff, and then a slow exhalation. Okay. So we're gonna do this together. So. Okay, so deep breath in, it doesn't matter through your mouth or your nose, preferably through your nose, but deep breath in. Top of that, you take a little sniff. And then a slow exhalation. So you guys just did one, right? How you feel already?
Amazing.
Yeah, a little bit lighter, muscles a little bit relaxed, heart rate came down. So instead of grabbing your phone when you're waiting for coffee, when you're at the gas station at the light, do a couple of those physiologic sighs and incorporate that a couple times in your day. You'll feel like you're more centered, you'll feel like you're less stressed, and yeah, it can be magical.
What's the purpose of the sniff at the top of the graph?
What's the purpose of it?
Yeah.
You know, why do we have a fifth toe? To be honest with you, I'm not sure. I know all the breathing or the gurus or biohackers, or you want a more prolonged exhalation. Like your ratio should be longer on exhalation compared to inhalation. They say to get you more parasympathetic. I'm actually not sure though why the sniff at the end. Why it's maybe it's not necessary.
It's a nice touch.
Yeah, it was nice. Yeah.
I have a question. I get a lot of headaches. Sometimes I wonder if it's because we spend so much time in front of our screens. And is there a substitute to Advil or Tylenol that it's maybe like a more natural remedy?
Yeah. So anytime I hear somebody that headaches during the day, like it definitely screens. You worry about it because you spend a lot of time on screens. But also, like, are you hydrated? Are your electrolytes on point? Like, there's a lot of little things that we do, especially if we're drinking a lot of coffee. Take a break from the screens, get outside, but just think about making sure you're well hydrated, and especially because a lot of us are caffeine addicts. All right, so that is the stress management piece. We are going to talk about nutrition, and what I'm going to say about nutrition is that is if you're struggling with weight, or you want to try and get healthy or stay healthy, this is the 80-20 right here. This is without proper nutrition, like eating well, like things will fall apart. Like you can't outrun or out-exercise a bad diet. And the 80-20 of nutrition, in my opinion, I know I get made fun of because I talk about it all the time. Protein intake is magical. It really is magical. If you're going to say one thing for your loved ones, your kids, especially the ADHD kids, you have you're struggling with your weight, you have an aging parent, something will get better if you optimize for protein. I promise you something will get better. And this is the reason why. So number one, 93% of y'all aren't having enough protein intake. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. And what increasing your protein intake will do is, number one, you are going to either maintain or increase your lean muscle, depending on how often you're working out. So by increasing your lean muscle, you're actually burning more calories just by having that muscle. So what we call the basal metabolic rate is increased because you have more lean muscle. Second, you are going to feel fuller. And what's the magic of that? You're going to not want that cookie. You are not going to want the ultra-processed foods. You are going to be more satiated, and life becomes more easier from that perspective. Third, if you are pre-diabetic or diabetic, your blood sugar will be more regulated. Muscle loves glucose, it soaks it up. So like even if you're having a heavy carb meal, but you double the protein on that carb meal, if you measured your blood sugar, you're gonna have way less of a spike. So as a result, we were talking about it before the talk. Now you instead of having that 2 o'clock, oh my God, I'm dragging my heels, I need a coffee, way more energetic, way less likely to have that fatigue. Last couple of things about protein. When you're eating protein, you are burning more calories for digestion. So any of you have ever experienced meat sweats? You go to a Brazilian restaurant, you go to a steakhouse, that shit is real. You are literally, 15% of the calories that you've ingested are going towards just digesting it, compared to 5% if it's carbohydrate or fat. So once again, I keep preaching it because it is it's a magic sauce. It's hard to do. Like the ideal dose of protein would be about 0.7 to 1 gram per ideal body weight. So myself as 200 pounds, I'm aiming for roughly 140 grams at a minimum, up to 200, and that's hard. It's not easy. Like it takes work.
So without getting into like protein supplements, etc., if you are optimum protein, how would you equate that into like real food? Does that mean to get where you need to go, you have to eat 3 chicken breasts a day, or what? Like how would you equate that?
That's a good question. So most people, just to be clear, I wouldn't recommend supplementation only if you're having trouble getting to your goals. So real food always. And so to give you a sense, most your palm of your hand, usually if it's animal protein, represents roughly about 50 grams of protein, just a little bit less than that. So that's a chicken breast is about 50 grams. If you were to have like a tenderloin that was that big, it would be roughly just under 50 grams. Here's a question for you. Just posted this one. How many grams of protein you guys think in one egg, one large egg? Oh yeah, well, that's the answer. Yeah, 6 to 7. Yeah, killing it. Most people. Yeah. So, like a lot of people think when they're eating an egg, they're like 3 eggs that they're winning. But you're like I'm doing 5 or 6 eggs plus Greek yogurt and so forth. So yeah, so just knowing that a lot of the food that you think might be high in protein is not quite the trick. And so, so that answers that question. Other sources that are great, Greek yogurt is a sneaky, wicked one where like half a cup represents 15 grams. My hack is just throw some protein powder in there to get some extra juice, or same in your oatmeal, put it in protein powder in your oatmeal.
I was curious if you had any insight on the amino profile. So like peanut butter's got protein, but only if, you know, but it's the actionable protein if it's mixed with other things like the collagens and things like that. So just wanting to get thoughts or advice around making up some of those proteins, maybe not from fully animal sources.
Yeah, so good question. Number one, I just want to highlight peanut butter doesn't have as much as you think. So it's like a tablespoon, about 4 grams-ish, depending. So it's sneaky. The non-animal based, big fan of legumes, tofu. I'm forgetting about some right now. But honestly, my bias is just if it's just worry about getting it. Like if you're, whether it's animal-based, non-animal-based or plant-based, because it's such a challenge, my recommendations is just focus on it. Because like the bioavailability is higher definitely on animal protein compared to non, but honestly we gotta walk before we run is my philosophy. So if you can, just make that the main focus.
So sometimes I crave sweets and then I go for fruits instead, but sometimes I hear people telling me if you eat too much fruit is not good for you because of the sugar. So is that true, or is it okay to eat fruits free?
That's a very good question. So fiber is definitely one that is clearly tied to longevity, tied to healthy life. You're hearing more about gut health, which is so important. Fruit I think is a bit trickier because there's some fruit that are higher in sugar than others, and some that drive a higher glycemic spike or a blood sugar spike than others. So when it comes to fruits, my big recommendation is to focus on like dark berries. Like that to me is your huckleberry, because it's high in fiber, it's less calorie dense, and because it's less calorie dense, you can have a bunch and not feel and not overdo your calories. Whereas bananas, as an example, 90 calories, most people will spike their blood sugar. So if you had a couple of those, you're already up to that's 200 calories, or like almost 100 calories each. So yeah, just being strategic about which ones you're having, I think is important.
So like blueberries over strawberries, or?
I would say any berry's game, but blueberry, my personal, yeah, the darker one as a rule, and then go to town on your vegetables, like fill up.
Okay, I know we don't want to get into the weeds, but I kind of want to, because I want to take advantage of you being here. So I saw a post you did, and you said that you loved NAD+, NAD+, it's a supplement, right? So I started taking it, loved it. So I would love to know what's in your supplement stack, but if you don't want to talk about all of it, maybe your top 3. So let's say we're getting everything we need to. What can we take as a supplement to really get us to the next level?
Okay, I'll start with the ones that I think everyone should be taking, and then we can decide from there. So everyone should be taking vitamin D. Like we don't carry it, but like it's definitely a must. Reasons why: we're in a northern climate. If you look at the levels that we see in the community, we're low. If you have any dark skin or ethnic background, you're even lower, because typically you get it from the sun. So almost everybody in here should be supplemented with vitamin D, not only for your bone, but your immunity too. Second that I put on my list, I'm a big fan of creatine. Creatine, which we'll talk about, increases your lean muscle, increases your ability to recover. But arguably, what is becoming more in vogue is, number one, it improves your mood. So whether it's depression or anxiety, with studies to show that it improves mood. And then it also makes you sharper. Like it's tied to reducing symptoms of dementia. It can help you overcome sleep deprivation. So that's one that I take every day. I take fish oil every day too for the anti-inflammation. So brain health and heart health I take that. I know I'm forgetting, but I take magnesium for the reasons, mostly on the stress side. So magnesium glycinate. Multivitamins, I don't want to put people on the spot, but multivitamins, to me in general, evidence support that it's useless. Like, yeah, it's good marketing, but unless you got a really old, decrepit, like person that's malnourished, there's a value there. Obviously, prenatal vitamins too. That's the other one that's okay if you're expecting. Those are the ones that I would say are like high level Wicked Awesome. Collagen, you'll see a lot about these days from a strictly evidence perspective. This is for your joints. Like if you're starting to show signs of early osteoarthritis, that's where the actual evidence is strongest. Does it support your hair, nails, and skin? Probably, but that's a claim that's less backed by science. What other ones that come up to mind? Like some whey protein is, if you could get real protein, I always say that's number one. Whey protein, like it's a great way to get your protein intake if you're not getting to your goals. And in some patient populations, actually shown to be very effective. If you're waiting to go for surgery, around that pre and post surgery, taking whey protein regularly, I think the way it works is because it's ensuring you're getting enough protein intake. It's been shown to be effective. Chemotherapy patients that are trying to like make sure they're in the best shape before, whey protein has been shown to be effective. So yeah, like always when you can, real food, but you know, a lot of this stuff, they're there for you to optimize your condition. So those are the ones, I feel like I'm forgetting a lot, but those are the ones that come to mind.
So if you had a sticker on the front of your refrigerator, what would be the 5 things that you would list that you think everybody, even though we may be consuming it, but the 5 things you should say, if you could really work to cut these 5 things, what would you do?
Cut things out, like food?
Yeah, so we've got the good list, we've got.
So the number 2 point that I say is ultra processed food for sure. Like, and this one is not one that you're going to eliminate, it's the one you're going to reduce, unfortunately, because it's everywhere. But it's clearly, there's direct studies showing that the more ultra processed food you have, the shorter your life is. It's highly caloric, no nutrients in it, makes you crave more of it. It's like the devil. Like just think about it as Doritos. Like whatever you have that's packaged, you have a couple Doritos, you're like, let's go. It's delicious. So the stuff to avoid, so I mean, to be honest with you, that's like, I don't know if I've ever been asked that question. So ultra processed food for sure. What else comes to mind, like common food that we eat so sugar, like simple sugar, like I think is important to, you know, to minimize. So like drinking calories to me is if you were to just stop drinking calories, like that could be magical for a lot of people. I had a buddy that stopped drinking his soda, lost 30 pounds in weeks, like it was crazy. One thing that worked personally for me during residency, I transitioned from beer to wine, like as my drink of choice. And maybe it was like the added carbs, maybe it was just the volume, but I lost like a buckle or 2 on my belt. Like it was, I found that very impactful. But without giving the whole 5, because you put me on the spot, I'm going to say like just avoiding the ultra processed food can be very, very impactful. The last thing I'll say on the nutrition side is a lever, not for everybody, but a lever that you could consider is fasting. So this is something that I've personally introduced in my life about 6 years ago. So you'll see different versions of fasting. You'll see like there's a 5-2 method, which you eat normally 5 days a week, and then 2 days a week you only have 1 meal. There's a more common one called time restricted eating. So this is the one I like to do. So I only eat between noon and 8 p.m. And so at 16 hours, I don't eat anything. And then my 8 hours, I call it my eating window. And what I like about it is when I eat, right? Like I don't have to think about the quantity because I have a window where I'm restricting my calories or when I'm not having food. And I find it tough to overeat, especially if you're focusing on protein. The caveat being, if you've had a bad relationship with food, this is not for you. If it's hard, it shouldn't be hard. If it's hard for you to do it, I find a lot of people will have a stress response, like a cortisol spike while they're fasting, and so they'll retain the calories, they'll retain the fluid, so it's not for you there. But for a lot of people that have struggled with their weight, this can be life-changing, with adding the fasting component.
I heard somewhere that like women need protein earlier in their day or their cortisol will spike, and that like intermittent fasting maybe wasn't always a great idea for hormones or something.
Yeah, so my personal bias, and this is, I'll just say it's not expert opinion, just from what I've seen, is that yes, the perimenopausal population struggle with this one more. Like it's from the hormone fluctuations, I don't know what it is, but adding that fasting component can be very challenging. But this is the thing, it's personalized. Some people it works really well, and some people it doesn't. You just listen to your body. If you're trying to do the fasting and it's 10 o'clock and you're ready to drop kick a child or a baby child, it is not for you. And like I've seen people gain weight while they're trying to do this. If I had to do like a kind of category, honestly I find guys respond to this better. If I'm gonna generalize, but have I seen women work well for women? Absolutely. But yeah, that perimenopausal population, I find it could be a bit more challenging. Yeah, 2 questions.
I just have a question, because like, when I eat, I feel like I've heard 2 different things. It's like I eat 3 meals a day, because like, I need to feel full in order to not graze. But like, I feel like there's like, eat small meals throughout the day, so you're constantly kind of like digesting. And what is better?
Yeah, so
Possibly, because I find I'm always hungry.
So not backed by data. So that was what I grew up on, was do the grazing, make sure your metabolic rate is stimulated. That's been relatively debunked. Like that whole principle. You end up just consuming way more calories than you need. And so if you're gonna choose one or the 2 of extreme, it would definitely be bulk eating. Like snacking, like you do not need to snack in general. Like I know this is popular, but ultimately if you're eating well and right and focusing on protein, you don't want to snack. So that would be more ideal, for sure.
So women lose obviously a lot of like bone density with menopause, but I'm wondering about like foods and nutrition to support bone density, like before even it becomes a problem like most.
Yeah, very good question. So this is going to tie into the next topic too, is like weight training and exercise. This is a very important component to have that bone density, increasing your bone density, and so you have that foundation. Obviously, the vitamin D and calcium early on is also very, very important for bone health. But yeah, pushing weight, jumping. I haven't looked at the data for sure, but a lot of the people in the bone density field say like adding that jumping component to your exercise can be very significant for improving your bone health. But definitely pushing weight for sure. Was there one more question? Yes.
I was going to ask one question. It is going back to sugar, because obviously sugar, like candy, yes, that's ultra processed, that's not good. But you see now recipes that swap, white sugar for maple syrup. Like, is there a difference in types of sugar, or because you see some things that say maple syrup is better, and others that say sugar is sugar?
So I am not sure. My bias is that when you're mixing it with a bunch of shit, like it's less likely to be influential. So not to get in the weeds, but one of the things I got to do years ago was put on a continuous glucose monitor, which, to be honest with you, if you have a chance to do that for one point in your life, it was so enlightening because you realize what your body responds to. And so one of the things that's pretty universal is if you have a simple sugar, whether it's maple syrup or something like just normal fructose or sugar, if you're mixing it with like a high protein meal or whatever, your blood sugar often is not going to make a big spike. And especially if you have the protein first. So I forgot to make that as a tip. Eat your protein first for 2 reasons. One, it's less likely to spike your sugar, and 2, you're guaranteed to more likely to get your protein requirement. So you go to keg and they bring out the bread, hold off on the bread until you have that steak. But so my bias is it probably doesn't make that much of a difference unless it's like that's the main focus of the meal. And yeah, but to answer your question, I'm not sure. Last question.
You mentioned about the collagen. So do you recommend bovine or marine?
We do marine. I don't know if there's a difference in terms of like efficacy, to be honest with you, with the bovine, but we do marine just because it's Canadian. Yeah. All right. Exercise. I'm gonna be brief. Everybody and their mother needs to be lifting weights. I'm sorry. You might not like the message. You don't have to be going to a gym. It could be body weight exercises. It could be something as simple as doing air squats, push-ups. But I can tell you strength is directly linked to longevity. I'll tell you a quick story. I was taking care of a guy in the ICU. He was in his mid-70s. He was playing with his grandkids, experienced a cardiac arrest, so died for a 2-minute period of time. His wife is a nurse, so revived him, luckily, gave CPR. And the typical story of a 75-year-old that comes into an ICU is that you either don't survive or you're institutionalized. And this man, he went to the gym 5 days a week and developed that foundation and was so strong. He was the only 70-some-year-old guy I've ever seen walk on a ventilator. Okay, like that was the level of strength he had. And this, not only is there the strength that you have, but it's also the mental fortitude to say, like, you know, all those days that you don't feel like going to the gym, you get up and do it. And so when it came to working with the physio, yeah, 100% I'm getting up on a ventilator. And now he's at home with his family. Because like this is you won't hear too many intensivists say this, but in 2025 it's actually hard to die. You know, you got ventilators that do the thing, you got all the dialysis machine. So it all comes down to quality of life. And if you don't have that strength, if you are frail, that's a poor outcome. You're going to have a poor outcome. So strength, avoiding frailty. I told you the benefits of having more lean muscle. Everybody needs to be pushing weight. And I'll give you a quick example. So everyone's going to get up, just so that I know there's a lull in the time. We are collectively, for those that can't see us, we're collectively doing, we're going to call this, it's called an exercise snack. You introduce this a couple times an hour. We're going to do 5 air squats together. So make room. Okay, on my count. Okay. 1, and your ass doesn't have to hit the floor. Do whatever feels right. 2, 3, 4, 5. You guys feeling okay?
Feel better, all right?
Yeah, feel better, a little bit more energized. And honestly, you have a seat. That's just, doing those exercise snacks is just as good as doing a sustained walk for 30 minutes. So we can all implement these little tips throughout the day.
Is there something that instead of sit-ups, right? Like you guys have a lower back pain that you would recommend that we can do throughout the day for hours?
I would even say sit-ups. Just my opinion, sit-ups are like 1983. If you want core, so best core exercises. This is one of the reasons why you got to do compound lifts. But if you're looking for core, like planks, I would focus more on planks. Bird dog. You guys know bird dog? Yeah. The other one that's big is.
If we don't know what bird dog is,
Anyone want to volunteer this bad boy? It's a hard one to explain, but you are. Yeah, arm out. You're on your one knee, but your arm out is here, and you're Google it. Sorry.
Did you say dead bug?
That was the other one I was looking for. I was trying to figure out dead bug. Dead bug's another one. I'll say not to get too much in the weeds, but especially those of us that are getting older and trying to avoid injury, holy cow, make sure you're incorporating core exercises for sure, especially if you have any back issues. So everyone in here is going to tell me they had no time to do to exercise. One of the key messages that we talk about in the book especially is you can implement a high intensity interval training as an example. So I'm on an IC week this week. My workout this morning was 10 minutes, not even. Did my core activity and then did what I like to call a Tabata exercise. You guys know what Tabata is? So this is a 20 seconds as intense exercise, 10-second break for 8 rounds. So 4 minutes of hard work and I was done. So I took a kettlebell, I do my kettlebell swings for that sequence as hard as I can, as fast as I can, a weight that's appropriate for me, and that was it. That's my exercise for the day. And that's 10 minutes, folks. So to say that we don't have time is not good enough. It needs to be a priority, it needs to be a focus, and if you don't have time, there's always exercise that we can squeeze in. You have your exercise snacks, high intensity stuff, and even, to be honest with you, even if it's not high intensity, I will always say consistency over intensity. Absolutely. I feel like anybody that you see results on, they've always been consistent, even if that exercise is not the best. Like you showing up to wherever you like to exercise, that's the win. If you show up to the gym and it's only a 5-minute workout, that's okay, because you'll make up for it another day. But yeah, having that consistency is good. I understand the time, so I'm going to start cooking. But the walking directly linked. People say it's not exercise; it's exercise. Walking, the more steps you do throughout your day, it's tied to longevity. Directly tied to longevity. So incorporating that after you have lunch, after you have meals, because it also can reduce your blood sugar by being strategic that way. So yeah, walking. I got asked the other day about weighted vests. I like a weighted vest. I know that it's probably showing up on your IG feed. Definitely not a bad thing unless it's too heavy. You want to be able to maintain your walking mechanics. I like the weighted vest over like rucking over a backpack, a weighted backpack, because I just find the center of gravity is the same. But yeah, I think you're gonna burn more calories by putting on a weighted vest for sure. Questions on exercise? Yes.
So, like weightlifting is more impactful than like weight bearing, like a calisthenic kind of thing, or?
So I'm glad you asked that, because to clarify, to me, like if I'm being more in the weeds, resistance training of any sort. So sometimes you could get enough bang for your buck by doing the calisthenics. So if you're doing push-ups and air squats and pull-ups, absolutely you could gain benefit. You could put on muscle for sure by doing that. So to me, I don't like to be too prescriptive because I want people just to start moving and start to doing things. So whatever floats your boat, to me is the most important thing. Community piece. Clearly this is community. You guys are doing that well, but this is one that is easy to stack. So, for example, I remember as a hockey player in the back. That's how I get my community. That's how I met most of the people when I moved to Ottawa 20 years ago. Was joined a couple hockey teams. You get your exercise. You get your community. And any of you guys watch the Blue Zone stuff on Netflix? If you ask me, this is the magic sauce. That they feel connected with their community. That's why they're living to 100. Plus, they're getting a lot of steps in too. All right, how are we doing for time? Because I could, 5 minutes? Okay, let me just make sure. Okay, last few slides then. I like to always get you guys to think, leave you with a little bit of homework. As I said, I'm a big fan of that 80-20 principle. I want you guys out of 5, mentally or write it down, whatever, look at those 5 principles and grade yourself. Where's that spot where I could use the most help in? Use my example for myself. I'm I need to sleep better. I won't lie, I need to sleep longer. Sometimes I feel like it could be a little bit more social. And so just for my goals in 2025, 2026 is working on those two aspects and just to optimize my health. But just thinking about that, maybe it is the last slide. Actually, no, I'll mention too, like this is something we've worked on with, these principles I've worked on with different organizations. This is our ICU group, and you can see this was, I think in 2023, one of our first events. And that social connection piece really has been something that has been transformative. And thinking about your overall wellness as a group, it really is, we have less staff calling in sick. We filled in we have no gaps in terms of HR now. It's just making it a priority could be magical. We got to work personally with the group at Bayshore on these very principles, and it's been so rewarding. And so that maybe is all I want to say, knowing that we're tight on time. Actually, I just want to say this one. That whole positive mindset as a group, I can feel there's a positive group. This is a positive group right here. But this photo was taken at 1 in the morning, the day of the fire at the General. So we, as an ICU group, it was important for us to step up. And these 5 docs here were going through the hospital, seeing where people needed help. She was attending our ICU, our 20-some ICU patients. But as you can see, we felt like we could get through it together, and it was that positive mindset was absolutely essential and magical in that moment. Don't want to say anything here. I'll just say this. That's it. This is the whole reason, as I mentioned, one of the biggest gifts in the last few years has been being able to speak in this space. Like when I get every once in a while a text message or a DM saying my mom is now offered diabetic meds because of that message that she heard, I can't tell you how rewarding it is. So if you take anything away, just knowing that you have that agency, you have that power to really transform your life, whether you consume it on podcasts, a book, or on social. But I can just tell you, as someone that their business is, in the life-saving business, this to me has been actually more rewarding in some ways than my grown-up job. So thank you. This has been a lot of fun.